Good afternoon, everyone. This is Matt Weisfeld coming at you with, well, I think I'm going to coin it as a drive-by with Matt, because I have been trying to do this recording, this podcast now for, I don't know, about 4 weeks, and I haven't been able to, because that's the joys of being a business owner, having children, trying to do, all the things, get it all done in time and everything. And so every time I've sat down to do one of these, something happens. And then it hit me, well, hey, I've got plenty of time right now, and we're not doing a video, so this should all work out. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, getting back to the overall point here, I'm Matt Weisfeld. Anyone listening to this probably knows me best as being the owner of VPI Industries, family-owned business, been around for 45 years now. So for anyone who's new to this channel or whatever it is I'm going to do with all of this, actually, let's talk about that first. And you know what? I think this is also why, in general, that this is finally working out while I'm, again, full transparency, while driving, is because usually in my life I'm doing multiple things in general, because it's just, there's a lot to do, whether I'm multitasking with trying to be a parent, while still handling VPI things, teaching things, whatever it might be. I try to get the best of all worlds to do what I can in general. So I think the multitasking is actually personally a good thing, always staying active. But anyway, so I am the owner of VPI Industries, which has been building turntables, manufacturing turntables for the past 45 years. Originally started with my mom and dad, Harry and Sheila Weisfeld, and it really was not meant to be some kind of growing big company. It really was kind of two enthusiasts, a newly married couple. They wanted to have kids, they wanted the dream and everything, but my dad couldn't afford a turntable. So he started making his own stuff, but he was always inventing little gadgets and things in general. So it's not like making things was something new to him, because he was that guy that would take his dad's own watch apart and put it back together, or the car engine. I don't know if they had car engines back then. I'm just kidding. If Dad listens to this, I'm sure they had car engines back in your day, Dad. But nonetheless, my dad was that inventor. Harry was that guy that liked to know how things work, taking things apart, putting them back together. So in the midst of his social economic situation of wanting these nice things but not being able to afford them, he ended up working on that in general. But what really did it was the cleaning machine. And anyone who has gone this far has probably heard this story anyway, far in the sense of whether you've been to our website, vpiindustries.com, Facebook, or anything, any of our social media platforms, you've probably heard this story at least once or twice. But essentially, the quick version is that my dad heard a record over at Harry Pearson's, and he heard it when it was dirty. Then he cleaned it on a Keith Monk's machine, and it broke him. It was such a night and day experience that my dad just couldn't. He needed a cleaning machine, but the Keith Monk's machine was like $3,000 back then, which by today's standard would probably be rather cheap with the price of everything. But nonetheless, back in the 70s, it had a $3,000, and you know what? Even if it was $2,000, because I have heard different numbers, I'm pretty sure in the 70s, and I could be wrong on this, that's like almost the cost of a car, or like maybe not the whole thing, but that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money now. That's really a lot of money back in the 70s. So here's my dad in this situation where he wants to clean his records, but he can't. So he makes his own. He checked out the Keith Monk's machine. He looked out at the overall idea with it, and then he went to work. He worked for, you know what? It's escaping me. If it comes back later, I'll say it. But he did sheet metal. So he was a sheet metal mechanic. He had a foreman, Singer. I want to say Andy Singer, but it's not Andy. Andy sells audio when he's not yelling at people. I'm kidding. He's calmed down and mellowed out a lot in his vintage years. Nonetheless, Sam, that's who it is. So Sam Singer is the gentleman that, my dad worked for, Harry worked for, and that he was one of those guys that pushed the idea of do it with a purpose. Even if you don't know what you're doing, make it look like you know what you're doing. So just the idea of if you walk with a purpose and work with a purpose, that just by accident of that psychological mindset, you're going to have more purpose. That's something that I've felt as well, just from education with my dad. But nonetheless, Sam had that attitude of that and pushing and driving forward. And he also was really impressed by my dad. So it gave him a lot of wiggle room with like the materials and things like that. So, which worked out because it gave my dad, Harry, a chance to actually kind of prototype and mess around with all these concepts with what would be considered the junkyard. So grabbing pieces of wood, metal, sheet metal, aluminum, whatever he had to work with, which eventually from those creations led to the HW16. But now everybody talks about the HW16, but we all forget about the 1 through 15. Because like with every creation, inventor, or whatever it might be, my dad didn't find 15 ways to make a cleaning machine. He found 15 ways that maybe didn't so much work out, or did, because one of his first products, or rather the one that really hit, in my opinion, the one that was a very good product, but just wasn't ready for the world because my parents were just a young couple from Brooklyn, was the HW9. The HW9 was a platform that was made for the Denon direct drive motor. You know, we always talk about the Denon, but I'm pretty sure, especially the DIY nature of it, that you really could have dropped any direct drive motor into it, especially since my dad loved it. Harry was down there in the basement happily doing this stuff. One of the vendors was a company called Interstate Woodworker, which is actually where we found Leo, but we'll come back to that later. And by the way, guys, with this whole podcast idea, there's really not a specific thing. I've got a couple of specific things I was going to bring up based off of questions that have been recently asked, or just in general with it. But I just want this to be another avenue of having a communication, having the transparency of knowing what's going on. And by going on, I don't just mean with VPI. I mean like on the other end of things of what's going on with running a business during these economic times, what's going on in the audio industry. And just from my perspective, I mean, I could be totally wrong on all of this. I mean, everyone that's, reviewers, publications, YouTube, whatever, all these guys doing this stuff, it's really, the authority of their humble opinion. So I could be totally wrong on this. And also what's encouraged it more so is that now that I'm back to teaching, which is the other thing over here, I did get pulled back into teaching, and I shouldn't say pulled because I'm wildly excited about it. Guys, I love being a teacher. I love educating in general. And that's what I try to do on the VPI end of having that transparency and education of what the heck is a tone arm. My daughter's 6, and she knows on an elementary level the difference between a unipivot arm and a gimbal arm. I mean, like, when she explains it, she, makes the point. This is the downside of a podcast. I'm making all these physical movements, but you can't see them. But I literally have my index finger up trying to mimic showing a unipivot, because that's exactly what Shiloh would do. Like, what's a unipivot? She'd be like, this! And use her other hand to pretend like that's the cup that's on there. But point being is that my children, at the young age that they're at, are already comfortable around my hi-fi system. I mean, I'm not going to trust them by themselves and say, here's sweetie, here's a Lyra Atlas, throw that on for daddy. Yeah, no, that's not a good idea. That was proven by when I wiped my dad's Dynavector back when I was Shiloh's age, but I'm sure we'll come back to that later. So, again, the point being, as far as this podcast, what's going on in my life, what I hope to achieve is, again, more education, more understanding, or in some cases, I know some of you have long drives, like the drive I'm doing right now, and I listen to podcasts. Maybe some of you want to learn more about VPI, but just don't have the time, so you can just throw my lovely voice on for whatever your commute is. Now, I mean, if that's your choice of entertainment for the morning, then I'm sorry that you've set the bar so low, but hey, why not? Everyone likes to learn or hear more about different things. So, but anyway, going back to the initial point of education and what we're doing with this is that at VPI, we always had interns. Like, even when my mom and dad, when mom was alive doing this, they always encouraged that, and we would do that through like Homedale High School, through a lot like with Girl Scout potential, since my mom was a Girl Scout, which anyone who's keeping up with my random bout of different ideas over here, Shiloh just started Girl Scouts, and man, am I proud. I just can't believe it. Just Seeing her in the troop, doing Girl Scouts, in the same group that my mom worked with. Wow. That was just a heck of a moment. Going in there in the Greek church over in Homedale, right where my mom would go, right where she would bring me to teach karate and stuff for them. And then there's my daughter in her Daisy uniform and everything, and the vest. And by the way, anyone who hears this podcast before this weekend, March 16th and March 17th, we're doing an audio event. So on the 16th, that is going to be the VPI music event. That is another thing that we want to try to get into a monthly routine of. I mean, we always have parties and events, but I like schedules so you can plan. This weekend kind of came out of nowhere, so I know a bunch of people are coming, but I like it better when you can actually plan around it, because I've got kids. And it is hard to plan around kids because they're kids and you never know what they're going to do. So this Saturday, March 16th at 6 o'clock, we're doing it a little bit later so that way we have two different time frames, and also because we teach karate in the morning. And again, for those who are not familiar with all the details over here, besides VPI, I also own and operate a karate school. The karate school is super important to me because without it and the education that I got from karate, I know I would have screwed things up already. Not that I've done things perfectly. I know I've made my fair share of mistakes over the years. But I know for a fact that there are pivotal moments in my life with VPI, being a parent, being a husband, being a son, that I could have done worse. I could have made, or rather I've made better choices because of that discipline, the drive, the confidence, and just the overall sense of community that karate gives you, or any type of community type sport activity. We're a dojo. We take care of each other. We help each other, and all of that just goes right back into VPI. Just how I've handled things, done things, or tried to, because again, like I was saying before, I can only go off of the fact that I believe that this is the right way to do stuff, but I could be wildly wrong. So with all that being said, the education factor, being able to have this podcast and get some comments from this of, hey, Matt, can you talk about insert random thing? And then we'll talk about that some more. And also, this is kind of why I really enjoy having a listening room now at the dojo, because on Saturday at March 16th at 6 o'clock, people are going to be coming in. We're going to be selling records. We're going to be cleaning records. We're going to be listening to music. We just got in I don't know if they're new, but they are new to me, and I know that a lot of people do not have a lot of access to listening to them, but I will say that they definitely are newer. The Audio Vector R8s. And I was pausing because I want to make sure I get that right, because I really have not gotten enough experience listening to them yet, but first blush, it has been amazing. I plopped them down roughly where I believe they should be, and it just sounded great. They're not spiked yet. They're still not spiked because we're still now moving them around. And just like on the first needle drop, the bass, the size, I mean, that's a big room. And those guys filled it up beautifully. And I still have to adjust. I've got to move it back a little bit. We've got a distributor over in the UK, Renaissance Audio. John Carroll gave me a lot of advice since he's a Audio Vector distributor as well, and gave me some advice on setup that, I'm about to go do that, actually. I'm pretty excited about that. But so that's going to be this Saturday, March 16th at 6 o'clock. It's going to be a VPI music event that's not tied to any audio society, any club, any group. It is open to anyone who loves music. My sales and marketing director, Bill Petit, previously from Audio Technica and a bunch of other places, he will be joining us this weekend as well. And that's one of the exciting things where everyone's going to be able to have more of a dialogue with Bill as well. So you can meet him, talk to him. But this Saturday is not going to be more so about that. It's going to be, hey, welcome. Here's the products. Here's what we have. Now sit down and let's enjoy a record. Grab some food, grab something to drink, buy some records, clean some records, and have a good time. That's what the monthly type of meeting is going to be, so that we can get together, listen to some music, learn more about VPI, and just have a good time. Now, this Sunday, on the other hand, will be, not like that's anything bad. It's just as far as the scope and the focus with it. That is going to be the New Jersey Audio Society. Now, wherever you are in the world hearing this, if you're taking the time to hear this, please go out there and try to find a group, a club, a bunch of people like us. Maybe not all the Audio Society groups, because let's be honest, guys, some of you, some of you need to take a breath. And it's coming in and just be like, oh, geez, you have that gear? Yeah, so what? Give it a listen. If you don't like it, fine. You just found a piece of gear that you know will never be in your house. But if you do like it, or in general, being able to have these conversations and dialogue, hence why I'm mentioning about this Sunday, the New Jersey Audio Society. So this Sunday at March 17th at 1:30, we'll be having the New Jersey Audio Society. And I believe we're leaning towards making it where this will be one of those spots that you all can count on, that you guys can have a meeting. And guys, I'm wildly open-minded about these things because, again, when it's a society meeting, that's not my time. That's not my chance to drum about VPI. This is about having a meeting, a society thing. In the past, we've had like Audio-Technica turntables around back when Bill was with them, just so you all can see a more entry-level turntable, but still has like a better build than, well, I'm not going to pick on any brands because, again, even if it is a build that a high-end audiophile is not a fan of, it's still an experience that a younger listener can get involved in. But so, again, if you are a music lover, but a touch more into wanting to learn more about the gear, or sit around a bunch of, and, I'm going to be honest, some of them are old curmudgeons, but they know a lot. They have a lot to share. And maybe they won't be an old curmudgeon if they talk with somebody who's interested in hearing what they have to say. And that's where, again, with communication and community, like I get along with everyone over there. I'll put a Facebook post up, and I'll get a Facebook message like, oh, Matt, what was it like to talk to that guy? I saw he was there. And then my honest opinion is, I had a great time. Yeah, maybe he barked about how the speakers were too boomy, but then we discussed why. We discussed the speakers that he had and the table he had. There's this one gentleman, and I'm not going to throw names out. I'm not going to get too crazy just yet. There's another gentleman, he doesn't own a VPI, and I don't care. It would be nice if he did, if he chose to, but he is one of the more enjoyable people. Like when I say, oh, good, I could talk to him all day. It's not about the brands. I mean, it is, you put the business hat on for a second, but to me, it's more about the musical experience. Whether it's a VPI table with a VPI, with or without a VPI tone arm, whether we're making a pod. And I'm sure some of you have seen on social media and the newsletters that the Southwest Audio Show, man, what an exciting thing. We're going to be showcasing it's really a DIY project and not exactly something that, from a business perspective, I'd even say makes a lot of sense from a VPI standpoint. But to my dad, to Harry, it's lockstep with exactly what he wants to do. Starting VPI, the HW16, now 16.5, all of it came out of DIY fun and just trying to push the limits. And that's kind of what happened with this a couple of years back, pre-COVID. We were trying to make our direct drive can more modular from a DIY, OEM standpoint, since people have been asking. And there was one larger company in particular that was heavily interested. We met at Munich. We looked at the different turntables. We didn't even have the... It was the year that we showed the HW40. When we launched the HW40 and they were all over the place. We had an HW40 with Mark Levinson. We had an HW40... see, my old age over here. I'm forgetting the name. Nonetheless, we walked around, we discussed it, and the big issue was they really were looking for a more enclosed can to just drop into their wild chassis, which we just didn't have at the time. So with the Southwest Audio Show, Reference Analog, who's been a fantastic partner and dealer for some time now, and just skilled in general, like they know turntable setup. Like when they have one of our tables and they're at a show, I'm not even worried. Actually, what's kind of sad is the more I trust and value your abilities with my product, the less you see me at an audio show, because I know you're fine. So I'm going to hit all of the guys who maybe need a little more TLC and setup or just rooms, whatever it might be. But with that, though, guys, I'm more excited about the pod. In fact, I'm not even going to talk about the can. It's a direct drive motor. We launched it. We have it. Now it's easier to move around. That's nothing new. Not that I'm trying to discount the idea of something amazing we've done, but again, that's nothing that you haven't seen before. It's just in a different type of package of accessibility. That pod, though, now that's something I was wildly excited about. Another thing that was, another product rather, that was held back because of COVID. We made a prototype, we showed it, we did a nice event, Rob and Wyatt with Rabiat, and I think we did with Miyajima, and whatever that event was pre-COVID. It was a wildly fun and successful event. Everyone was excited about it, but then COVID happened. So there you go, guys. One of the questions that I wanted to answer in this podcast was people asking about future products, inspiration of current products, and like why we did certain things. Because on the surface, I'll bet you all thought that I was nuts. I'll bet a number of you think that more often than not. Again, making turntables and doing karate. However, there was a method to our madness. We made the direct drive pod. We made the arm pod. We were ready to go on it. But then COVID hit and the supply issues happened. Incidentally, the slug that we used that was spec'd out and that we were getting ready to do for the arm pod was the same size slug. And when I say this, guys, I am not a machinist. I've worked very closely with machinists. I've gone through educational experience with machine shops and whatnot. But still, so anyone out there who's an expert, you may get what I mean when I say this. But so the raw aluminum piece used for the pod was the same piece we used for the motors. Now, at that time with COVID and the supply issues, that's when nobody had supplies. People had to get it from wherever. They didn't order in time. Or in some cases, guys, it was a matter of, with the world being closed down, the supplies might be down the road, but they had no safe, legal, whatever you want to call it, way of getting that. We had it. We had all of the slugs. We had it because, again, we project numbers. We do things. And that's actually, I got to give Jane the credit on that. Jane, my wife, I'm doing the same thing my mom and dad did. Mom ran the office. Dad ran the factory and the concepts and ideas and engineering, and it kept them going. Because, guys, you know me. I'm very shy. And anyone who's listening to this has just probably had a chuckle because I'm far from that. But I do know that I go off the cliff a little sometimes with my enthusiasm. I've done it with the colors of a product. I've done it with the numbers of things. But that's when Jane will always bring me back to earth and be like, well, okay, yes. Do we really need 500 of those? Maybe we should do 100? So that's where she'll ask the questions because she'll see the numbers. And I need that. We all need that. All those crazy inventors out there need that. But because of our projected numbers, because of just the resources and data we have, which does connect it back to Monmouth University, but put a pin in that, we'll come back to that later. Because of having the data and the information, we do project numbers, order material, plan for material, and we don't always get it right. A lot of times we're slightly off on some things. But because of those projected numbers, we had already a nice supply of raw material for our motors to begin with. But then we had a whole lot of allocated material for the pods. But now I'm thinking, oh, geez, the world just got closed down. We have no idea what's going to happen. We really can't use this material. We can't use it up on a new product that the world doesn't even know yet. And if it would even hit, maybe you all be like, wow, that was really nice, but nah, that's not for us. We would rather a full, complete kit. We would rather that prime with the motor pod. So that's when we just decided to hold back the motor pod because I didn't want to machine out all those arm pods. Then we're stuck because we can't produce motors. So that fortunately worked out. And a little bit of another VPI tidbit over here. That's one of the reasons we lost the small, not that we lost, but we gave everyone the upgrade. The smaller motor that we used to have for the Scout. It was a black, it was a rounded motor just like a pod, just like a prime motor pod. But this smaller black motor was just getting more difficult to have made just because of the size. It was the partner who was making it. The machine shop that was doing it at the specific time, because we like to spread the wealth out. We like to have different partners, vendors, and whatnot. Just so, again, you shouldn't have all your eggs in one basket. but then also just in general so there's no overload. Because a lot of one of the pitfalls of having everything under one roof, even if it is that specific company that owns it, let's say that I'm having all my platters made, but that machine is the same machine that I need for my VTA bases. Well, if I only have that machine for it, then I'm going to have to either buy another machine or I'm going to have to wait. And what if the machine breaks? All of a sudden, I'm stuck on my platters and I can't produce VTA bases. So going back to the idea of how we have our different partners and different machine shops and whatnot, at that specific time, the machine shop that was working on the Scout motors, he was struggling. There was a lot of problems and issues and whatnot, and the pricing of that motor was going up, and availability. And it was the holidays around that. It was before the world had shut down, but there were certain companies that were already starting to get hit by it, and we were delayed. I had no Scout motors. I was stuck. And again, the motor pod, housing, whatever you want to call it. I know different countries use different lingo. But again, the main issue I had was no motors. Upscale Audio on the U.S. side had an order for about 10. I believe Music Direct. There was a bunch of orders that were stuck because of the motors. So that's when we looked at it, and that's where, and again, it's nice being a family business. We didn't have to have a shareholder meeting. I had one of those like, well, we got to get it out. And that's where I had Claire, our operations manager, look up the bill of material. We checked it all out. Had Jane double check me, went through the whole 9 yards and said, okay, let's do it, guys. So we upgraded everyone to the motor pod. But that led to me to a larger volume, some savings, and we were able to make it happen where that upgrade stayed as a permanent fixture in the VPI line. Now, I just jumped all over the place, guys, so I apologize if I'm sometimes hard to follow. Imagine what it's like for my wife, because she has to live with this. I'll be talking about something with VPI, then I'll randomly just jump to something about the karate school. And the biggest issue I have for my wife is I know a lot of people named Mark and named Bill, and they're all like important people in my life. I've got 3 people named Mark that I have to deal with and talk with on a daily basis. And I've got like an endless amount of people named Bill. You know, we've got Karate Bill, Dancing Bill, Machine Bill, Wood Bill. I mean, we even have other descriptives that are not, Big Bill, and then other descriptors that are probably not the best to say on a podcast. But nonetheless, if you're having trouble following me here, just imagine what it's like for my wife. So, and she's got the language barrier to worry about. So, but she's the best. I wouldn't be able to do this without Jane. I now see, I knew it, but now I really appreciate that Dad wouldn't have been able to do it without Mom, and just with all of this stuff. But anyway, that's a couple of tidbits about VPI development and things that have happened. So that's why we had the delay on the ARM pod, because of the material. That's why the smaller black motor pod, even though it was cheaper, you guys couldn't get it. And we love this, guys. My dad and I take our own product. We like I enjoy. You see that? That's I still got the Bluetooth on the phone going on, even though I'm not driving. And so with that being said, like, I really enjoy one of my probably favorite guilty pleasures. It's not even a guilty pleasure, just great. Friday. Today's Thursday, so tomorrow we'll do this. On Fridays, I've got my kids' karate class. We do that. On a good day, Shyla's in there. She's doing karate. I get to hang out with her. On some days, Goldie's there as well, and she gets to play. I get to see her. Then at 6 o'clock, I teach my adult class. And it's a good group where, I've got the, beginners, I've got advanced students, but we go at a nice pace where we get to learn. We don't go crazy. No one gets hurt. And it's very much about do you have a rough week, guys? Okay, breathing exercises, hitting things, whatever we might need to do, some katas. And then afterwards, we've got the performing arts group. My kids dance, they do all of that stuff. And we get to listen to a little bit of music. People choose to have some spirits, that's always on them. So some spirits, some music, and I'll tell you, it is just a heck of a way to end the week. It's really great. And that's why, guys, I feel like that we look at this differently, because You know, we're not bean counters. We've got people to watch and make sure I don't go too crazy. Thank you, Jane, if you're listening to this. And, you know, for my mom, same thing with when, you know, Sheila, my mom was around and running it with Dad. You know, so we need to make sure we're careful. But at the end of the day, though, we really enjoy doing this. Dad made this because he wanted a cleaning machine so he could enjoy his music more. I love it. I love listening to music. I listened with my dad. I went to sleep, going to sleep hearing Belafonte in the background. I heard Take 5 in the background. Oh, my Lord, the amount of times I heard Frankie Laine, who recently passed, you know. So, just in general with all of this stuff, guys, music can really get you through the day. It can connect you with stuff. Heck, 9 times out of 10, I'll hear in the background a tune that I haven't heard since I was like 12 years old, and bam, it brings me back. The Shyla. Shyla's got she's got a school event, function, assembly, I don't know, but she's singing in it. She's doing exactly what I did when I was over there, when I was in school. Same school, same everything. It's just been amazing, and she's singing "I Want to Rock and Roll." So now all week we've been listening to I Want to Rock and Roll. I'm not going to sing it, guys. If you're waiting on, come on, Matt, sing it. Sing it. I'm not doing that. Speaking of singing, this weekend at the audio event, March 16th at 6 o'clock, 6 p.m., and March 17th, New Jersey Audio Society at 1:30, the 17th, some of my students are going to be attending. So my students at Monmouth University, I teach an IT class. It's a business technology class, IT 150. Which the main focus on that is an introduction to technology, Word, Excel, that's a big one in my humble opinion, PowerPoint, aspects of web design, aspects of photo editing, all of these different things. And I use VPI for it. I use it as a real life example. I use the karate school as well. But I taught this class about 10 years ago. Saying that out loud sounds wild because it feels like that it was a blink. And I taught with... you know what, guys? I'm going off on too many different stories right now. I will keep all those little tidbits so that if you want to hear more, you could share that in wherever I put this, whether it's the comments, messages, emails, or whatever. Let me just get a little focused on this and say a couple of things I want to get out there just because I've been done driving for some time and need to go on to getting ready for the event this weekend. So... live music. This weekend's event, we are going to be selling records. We'll be cleaning records. I shared that already. We're going to have a number of my students there interning to help out. I've got this one kid, Liam. Oh, man. And he goes to Colliard. He's in high school. He's not even one of my college students. This kid, he came in, and I wanted to see if he'd help me catalog records. He asked me if he could use Discogs. And I'm just like, you know what Discogs are? Next thing you know, I'm talking about Blue Note Records with this high school kid. So that's why, everybody, if you're listening to this, you want to help grow this industry, you want to help make it all better, and have there to be a tomorrow of the next generation, invite people in, ask them to listen. See, it doesn't matter that, oh, guys, it's a girl. I really hate when people get excited about that. Yes, it's a girl. Oh, look, and it's a young guy. Oh, look, and it's I don't know. Whatever it is. I always looked at it as a family thing. I listened to music with my dad, with my mom, my brother when he wasn't going out. Like, you know, I've got those very strong, I'm 38 years old now. I've got those very strong memories as a, 6, 7, 8-year-old, old memories with my brother. I mean, that's before I was 10. So, and I remember sitting and listening with the family, and that was normal. That was right. It wasn't, whoa, my mom's listening to music. Guys, you see this? A girl's with a record. Now, Mom did not like handling the record, but that wasn't because Dad didn't let her. It's because Mom couldn't see. She had bad vision. It just was what it was. She was afraid to touch it because of the fact that she was worried of wiping these cartridges that she knew what they cost. She was like, oh, nope. That's the expensive Dynavector. We'll let Matt wipe that, which I did, but that's a story for another time. So, okay, anyway, guys, so a couple of things I wanted to make sure to get out with this intro podcast. You guys know that I'm shy, so I'm using this as an outlet to work on that so I can get out of my shell over here. I'm working on myself, but aren't we all? I'm going to be doing this in this type of medium because it is easier for me to get it done, to have it out there. Getting the video, setting it up, there's so much time, and I just don't have it right now, guys. I'm just so proud of my kids. Shyla, Goldie, Baby John. I mean, it's just been he's eventually going to grow up, but he's always be Baby John to me. My mom would always say that. My Shirley used to say at my grandma, you could be 80 years old and you're still my baby. And that's how I feel with all of this. And I just really don't want to miss a moment. So anyone who has listened this far or hears about this, I mean, like, just in general, like when I miss a call, I miss an audio event, whatever it is, I assure you, I am not snubbing you or missing that customer service situation. Just play with my kids. And then it's one of those, I'll get it later. And then after that, that's me just, losing my mind. But in general, guys, just a couple of things I want to get out there. This is what I'm hoping to do more of. It's going to be a podcast. I jokingly said before, a drive-by with Matt. Who knows what I'm really going to call this or how this is going to be received. Or I don't know, maybe you're all going to be like, wow, Matt, that was a little too wacky. That is not becoming of the CEO of a company. And, maybe some people will feel that, but I always like that. I like to be able to connect, be able to feel a part of it, being able to know what's going on. All the products that I ended up gravitating towards when I was younger, it was when I felt like I could be part of that community. And that's what my mom and dad created. Everyone who was a customer, I had no idea. All these years when we would go over to a customer's house, I really thought they were family friends. And years later, I mean, they were family friends. I just had no idea that they were just customers that mom and dad really liked hanging out with. And I grew up with that idea of, whether you buy an inexpensive table or a super table, who cares? Let's just have a party. Everyone out there's fighting a battle that we know nothing about. That's one of those phrases I like to say a lot. And with that being said, music helps that battle. Being able to sit around in a community, like for this weekend, March 16th at 6, or March 17th at 1:30, if you want to look at join the New Jersey Audio Society. These are the kind of things that can help us win that battle in the day. Listening to music with others, being able to vent. You know what? I really feel those old curmudgeons who complain about their gear, that's their, psychological way of complaining about something else. They can't come in and say, I can't believe I got that parking ticket. That no, instead of like, it's so boomy. You take a second to listen and talk about why it's boomy, you feel a little better. So anyway, we have that event this weekend. We're going to have college students and high school students there, so please come by, meet them, buy some records from them, and then come and hear this amazing gear we have from my Audio Vector. Anthony Chiarello. Anthony, your company's name is escaping me at the moment, but you can tell him about more this weekend. He is the current rep of Audio Vector and was kind enough to help make arrangements to make sure we have the Audio Vector R8 speakers. Really some beautifully made speakers and amazing sound so far. Everyone's been excited. With the rest of the gear, it's the Audio Research electronics through and through. And guys, I always like to make sure everybody knows, I bought that gear. We bought that gear. VPI wanted it because it was so good. Cabling is Nordos through and through with their Nordos Odin. And then at the end, we've got the VPI Weiss line. And we're using our HW40 Black Edition turntable with Fat Boy tone arm and Vanden Hoe Black Crimson, which has really been a heck of a cartridge, guys. I mean, I know people should be like, get the expensive one. I mean, not that it's cheap. It's in the 6,000 range. 6,000? I mean, I should know these things. But nonetheless, I really like it when you have the almost to the top. Like to me, the Prime. The Prime table, I always loved that as being that table that punched above its price point. In more recent years, it's been the Signature because it hits that. That's for another time, guys. Moral is, this event we're really excited for. We've got Audio Vector, we've got Audio Research, we've got Nordos. Upstairs in the other listening room, we'll have another set of Audio Vector speakers with Moon by Sim Audio integrated. This integrated is another one. That's mine. I have taken this everywhere. It is one of my favorite units to use. I've beaten the heck out of it. In fact, I should probably get it upgraded at this point because I've had it so long. So I hope you guys enjoyed the first of hopefully many podcasts, future products and things to look at. Just keep looking at those arm pods and those tone arms that we've been doing, and how modular things have been at VPI and always have, even back to the original, like I was saying before about how my dad made that HW9, which was meant to be a modular unit. to take a direct drive motor, and then eventually making that HW19. The HW19 was really a heck of a piece where you can start in one direction and upgrade straight on through. But again, I just really like that concept of everyone being able to get into the party, everyone being able to play, that you don't have to get a $10,000 turntable off the bat to get in the club. So, and speed boxes. You guys have seen a lot with that. Guys, we were set. We had our new speed box. I'm taking along with me. So now this is going to turn into a podcast walk because I can't stay in my car any longer. So, but that's why, guys, the speed box and other products that you all saw at the start of COVID unfortunately got delayed because of the situations and circumstances that happened. So we're going to be looking a lot more back at that. You guys have seen with the launch release of the Dragon. The Dragon table utilizes our smaller speed box of having 33 and 45 at the push of a button. So you don't have to worry about having that external, or at least in the sense of the Dragon, of having that SDS, ADS, or other third-party speed box. And then you also don't have to worry about, in the sense of not having a speed box, of changing your belt. So for now, guys, just take a close look at that Dragon turntable with its gimbal 3D arm, isolation, and using the two-speed motor. So hope you guys, again, I've said goodbye to you guys a bunch of times as well. This is Matt Weisfeld. I hope you enjoyed this hopefully delightful podcast. If you liked what you heard here, then, I don't know, hit the like button or whatever I put this on, whether it's YouTube or other site. Throw a comment. Please give feedback, guys, if there's things you want to hear more about. And the other thing which was asked about was swag. I'm totally with you guys. I love VPI swag. I love having that. That was one of the other conversations that we've been having over at VPI about stepping up our swag game, because I am really excited about VPI, and I think some of you guys are pretty excited too, and would love to give you that ability to showcase that, whether it's sweatshirts. We did have it. It's just we want to step up our game on that, and there'll be more information about that in general. So from those who asked the questions on the Facebook group, we're very excited about the Southwest Audio Show, where we're going to have the VPI Titan Direct on display. We're going to have that DIY CAN-esque pod, but that ARM pod, guys, take a real close look at that. That's going to be something you're going to be seeing more of, especially maybe on the global, international level. The inspiration of designs really came from the idea of being modular and being able to upgrade, just like with all VPIs, starting with a Prime 21, for example, then upgrading to a Fat Boy tone arm, or upgrading with a periphery ring clamp, or a speed box, or whatever it might be. And that's something you're going to see more in 2024, 2025, of us just making it that much easier in the respect of being able to upgrade your rig without it being an end-of-the-world situation, and what we're going to be showcasing with our different tone arms and whatnot. That, I think, covers it all, guys. So hopefully we'll see you all this weekend on March 16th at 6 o'clock for the music event, and then March 17th for our record event. We're going to have live music by my students. So I've got one, potentially two students who will be singing. We're going to have a lot of students helping us sell records, clean records, including our very own Shyla. So Shyla, possibly Goldie too, but I don't know. I mean, Goldie's only 3, so I feel like if I have her cleaning records, she'll just be licking the records or something like that. Shyla, she can actually do it. She did mount a cartridge over at the Tampa Audio Show, but we'll come back to that another time. So this upcoming weekend, if you're in Dallas, please check out the Southwest Audio Show run by Gary Gill and Lou Hinckley, and Gary we all know successfully from the Capitol Audio Fest show. And so this is Matt Weisfeld, and throw down a like or whatever, and see you all next time.